Hello, everyone. I'm Rohini Zakaria Oishi, lecturer, Department of English Studies, State University of Bangladesh. I'm welcoming all of you to this second distinguished lecture series titled Publishing Scopus-indexed Journals, organized by the Department of English Studies, State University of Bangladesh. Today, we have among us Professor Dr. Saidur Rahman, Institute of Modern Languages, University of Dhaka, Advisor of the Department of English Studies, State University of Bangladesh, and President, TESOL Society Bangladesh. Our keynote speaker of the session is Professor Dr. Kamarul Kabilan. To begin our session, I would like to invite the head of the department, Tawhida Yasmin Humaira, to deliver the welcome speech.
Thank you, Rohini Zakaria Oishi. Good evening to you all. I'm Tawhida Yasmin, Acting Head, Department of English Studies. On behalf of the Department of English Studies, State University of Bangladesh, I'd like to welcome you all to the second session of Distinguished Lecture Series. Today's keynote session is on publishing in Scopus-indexed Journal. I want to express my gratitude to Dr. Saidur Rahman, Professor, IML, Dhaka University, and Advisor, Department of English Studies, State University of Bangladesh, and President, TESOL Society of Bangladesh. The resource person of today's keynote session, Dr. Kamarul Kabilan, Professor, School of Educational Studies, University Science Malaysia, and all the participants for your valuable presence. It's my privilege to let you know that the Distinguished Lecture Series was launched to mark the 20 years journey of State University of Bangladesh. In these 20 long years, State University of Bangladesh has established itself as one of the leading private universities of the country. Currently, the university is providing quality higher education to students from home and abroad. State University has its permanent campus in South Purvachal, Dhaka. It is also conducting different academic programs from its own campus at Shat Masjid Road, Dhanmondi, and at Bijoy campus at Kolabagan, Dhaka. Department of English Studies is a proud part of State University of Bangladesh. It runs bachelor's and master's in arts programs in ELT and English literature. Apart from that, the department also arranges professional development courses for professionals of different sectors, especially the teachers. Distinguished Lecture Series is an initiative taken by the Department of English Studies to invite experts in the field of language teaching, linguistics, literature, and culture studies to facilitate workshops, lectures, seminars, and so on. The Department of English Studies intends to bring prominent experts to allow both the faculties and students to get acquainted with the latest theories, research findings, pedagogical innovation, the best teaching and learning practices in the relevant fields of study. The first session under this banner was facilitated by Professor Masroor Shahid Hussain from Jahangirnagar University. Now, this is our second session today. I must mention here that the Department of English Studies will continue to arrange workshops, webinars, seminars under the heading of Distinguished Lecture Series. If you are interested, you may consider liking and following the social media pages of Department of English Studies, State University of Bangladesh. The links will be given to you through the Zoom chat box. Finally, I express my gratitude to all of you for joining with us today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Now the session will be moderated by Professor Dr. Saidur Rahman, Advisor, Department of English Studies, State University, Bangladesh. Sir, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and I'm really glad to welcome you all to our Distinguished Lecture Series 2. Thank you, Tawhida Yasmin, the head of the department, for inviting me to become the moderator. So this is the most important part of this session. And on a very personal note, I'm so glad that Professor Dr. Kamarul Kabilan finally really could arrange this workshop, which was due during COVID. I think it was 2020, when the State University of Bangladesh invited him to conduct the same session face-to-face. Unfortunately, because of pandemic, we had to cancel the schedule. And we had so many plans with Professor Kabilan. Part of it, I still remember, we are supposed to have Kachi Biryani together at a start, and that is still due. And we are not very sure when this pandemic is going to get over, with the third or the fourth wave is going on. I don't know the number, maybe the sixth wave. With the Omicron and others, it doesn't seem like we are going to meet very soon physically. However, this session is something that we are looking forward for such a long period of time. So let me just read out what Professor Kamarul Kabilan sent about the workshop. This keynote session will address various fundamental aspects that participants need to be aware and know of if they are serious about publishing in a Scopus-indexed journal. Now we all know that publication is a very crucial requirement for lecturers and postgraduate students in both the public and the private institution in higher learning. Publication in a reputable and prestigious journal also contribute to an institution's KPI, that is known as Key Performance Index, particularly journals that are internationally accredited and indexed in reputable databases like Scopus. Fundamental knowledge of elements of writing articles would be very useful for participants keen on embarking on publishing those journals. Let me introduce our keynote speaker today. Professor Dr. Mohammad Kamarul Kabilan is a professor at the School of Education Studies, USM. He has widely published in prestigious journals, namely TESOL Quarterly, British Journal of Education and Technology, English Teaching, Practice and Critic, the Internet and Higher Education, Teaching and Teacher Education, Computers and Education. He sits in various international journal editorial boards, including the British Journal of Educational Technology and English Teaching, Critic and Practice. In addition, he has reviewed more than 100 articles for various established journals. Currently, he is the editor-in-chief for the Scopus-indexed Journal, Asia Pacific Journal of Educators and Education, APJEE. So can I request Dr. Mohammad Kamarul Kabilan to take over and start his session? Thank you so much. Over to you, Professor Kabilan.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Saidu. Yeah, I'm still waiting for Kachari Biryani. I first had that meal when I first went to Bangladesh. So it's something that I really, really miss. And I hope, I can go back to Bangladesh sometime or another and have that. Okay, thank you very much for the wonderful introduction by the organizers. Truly, I'm very, very happy to be here to share with the little knowledge that I have when it comes to publication. Right, let me just do some sharing here. Just give me 1 minute. Let me sort out some things. Okay. Sharing. Share screen. Okay. Okay, hold on. Right, I hope, Prof. Saidu, can you, is my screen visible?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, so let me just introduce myself. Perhaps those who are meeting me for the very first time. I'm a academic, I'm a researcher. I'm also a teacher at University Science Malaysia, or fondly known as USM. USM is the second oldest university in the country after University Malaya. And we are the first science-based university in Malaysia. So our strength basically are science subjects like engineering, medicine, biology, food technology, and so forth. My area is ICT and education. I do a lot of research and publication in the field of ICT and education. And I focus as well on teacher education and professional development of teachers. Okay, in fact, my PhD was on the use of ICT for teacher professional development. These are some of the publications. I'm sharing this with you just to show that whatever I'm going to share with you later on are based on my experiences of publishing, writing these papers. I'm just sharing some of them so that later I will, of course, I will share this PowerPoint with the organizers, and then maybe you can look up if you're interested. Who knows, maybe you want to pursue your PhD under me in Malaysia. I have many Bangladeshi students under my supervision right now. So that is indeed a very exciting journey in terms of research. Okay, these are some other articles that I have published, and all these are Scopus. Yeah, I'm just sharing so that you have an idea later on what I'm talking about. Okay, these are just some selected ones and some of the things that I've done. I'm also the editorial board in the editorial board of British Journal of Educational Technology, English Teaching and Practice at one stage, and from New Zealand, Malaysian Journal of Learning and Instruction. This is the first journal in Malaysia that became a Scopus-indexed journal in the field of education. And now it is a Q1 journal under Scopus. And I'm also an editorial board member for more than 10 international journals, all right? So when I'm saying something, that means it holds weight. I'm not just saying it for the sake of saying. So these are based on my experience, of my little experience that I have, so that perhaps you will be able to use my experiences as part of your publication process. And currently, I'm the editor-in-chief for Asia Pacific Journal of Educator and Education. This is a Scopus-indexed journal in USM. And if you're interested to publish, perhaps your first, if you have not published any Scopus, perhaps you want to submit to us. And I will have a look at it, and perhaps you will be successful. After going through this session, perhaps you will be successful in publishing in Scopus journals, okay? All right, reviewing articles also helped me a lot when we look at other people's manuscript and we review and we give what we call comments, we critique, we look at their methods, we examine the findings, we critically analyze their conclusions. All these activities that we do when we review articles, they actually guide you when you are writing your own paper. So it becomes, some people, they would like to publish and they do not like to review. So when a journal invites you to review a paper, I think as beginners, as well as experts, you know, you should share your knowledge. You should accept being a reviewer. Because when you review manuscripts from these journals, that means they recognize you as an expert in that particular area. But you must give a good job, you know, a good review, feedback, critical analysis, insights, so that they value your work, your review, and therefore they will be able to invite you for next time. So it's a good learning experience that I think everyone should embark upon. Because when you review, that is where the biggest learning is. So when I review papers, I learn a lot in terms of research, in terms of different research methods. Sometimes you think you know everything, when you read other people's manuscript and you are reviewing and you find new knowledge related to research or findings and other things, all right? So, but you also need to be aware what kind of journals that you are reviewing for, because sometimes some journals are predatory journals, so you don't want to publish in them or even review papers for them, right? So let's look at this is fundamental. This is just to give you a feeling what is an academic work, all right? So when we are writing in terms of from the standpoint of an academic piece, it is very different from newspaper, fiction or storybooks or popular magazines, because in academic writing, the terms used, the way it is written is very direct, okay, as compared to storybooks or fiction. So you have examples of academic pieces would be journal, bulletin reports, academic magazines, research reports, books, and proceedings, okay? So these two are different, and that's the way it is written. The purpose, the content of these writings are totally different, okay? And when it comes to academic writing, there are specific ethics, specific procedures, specific systems, guidelines. There are also certain formats in academic publication. You will see that any journal, they have specific format that they want you to submit. You cannot simply write without actually looking at what we call the journal's guidelines. And that is one of the key factors, okay? So when you are in the process of writing and submitting to a journal, the first thing that you need to look at is the guidelines given by the journal, you know? So if you do not know the guidelines and you simply write and then you submit to the journal, most probably you'll get rejected, okay? I will go through that process. I will give you some examples. I will also share with you, we'll do some practical work by looking at actual journals and try to understand what are their needs, okay? So academic publication is always rigorous and recognized by peers and experts. So that's why there is a process, what we call as peer review. There are different types of peer review process, but I think for the purpose of today's workshop, we will just term it as rigorous and recognized by peers and experts. Okay, rigorous means you have a system, and this system is, the standard of the system is very high and all of the standards are met. For example, in terms of research methods. So if the research paradigm says ABC, then you as a researcher must strictly follow the guidelines given as in ABC as well. So you can't sort of like, oh, okay, I will use A and B and I will ignore C, for example. Okay, so for example, experimental study. So if you're conducting an experimental study, you cannot have your own system of an experimental study. So for example, some features of experimental study, the researcher should not be teaching, for example, the control group or the experiment group. Okay, so this is a notion that is widely accepted when we are doing experimental studies. And you can't say, oh, I'm going to change the way it's done. So that's not rigorous, okay? Because experimental studies, in a way, they are structured in very, very rigid way. These are the things, or these are the procedures that you need to follow, and therefore you need to follow it. And then you report it, and then you submit it to a journal. So if a reviewer looks at your manuscript and says, this is not how experimental studies are done. So if that's the case, then most probably your paper will be rejected because it is not rigorous, okay? I don't know if we have rooms and opportunities for Q&A, but later on. But if you have questions you do not understand, I think you can put in the chat room, and I presume the organizers are monitoring the chat rooms as well. Okay. All right. Next. Why do you need to publish? Why do you need to publish? All right. In an ideal world, without any what you call interior motives, basically we want to share and spread new knowledge and ideas. Okay. So when you carry out a research and you find new findings, new interesting theory A there are new ways of looking at a theory, or there are new branches of an existing theory. So we want to share and share this new idea and knowledge with others. And then, of course, we want to strengthen existing knowledge and ideas, and that's why sometimes some research are repeated, because we want to see to what extent what other people have done can be confirmed by our own research. Let me give you an example. For example, if I conduct a research and I find ABC, that ABC could be relevant only for the Malaysian setting. And then perhaps like people like Prof. Saido would like to, confirm whether such findings is also can be found in Bangladesh, in the Bangladesh context. So he does a research and he finds A and B. So he can conclude that, A and B is something which is very similar in Malaysia and Bangladesh, but not C. Perhaps the cultural reasons or geographical reasons are the barrier for C. So, but the main thing is that these two research, one done in Bangladesh and one done in Malaysia, actually strengthen the existing knowledge of A and B. So when that is done, that means people can be more confident in terms of that particular finding. Okay, right. Of course, when we are publishing, the one thing that we all want to establish our expertise, so that our scholarship is recognized, our university recognizes our work and gives us promotion, bonuses, and pay increment. Well, at the end of the day, of course, we want to share and spread knowledge, but we also need to eat and drink, right? I've never seen anyone who do research for the pure passion of love without having any meals on the table. So, well, this is what Maslow said. We have all our needs. We are functioning in a world where we have to fulfill our needs. So, apart from sharing, we also need to establish our expertise, our recognize our scholarship and work, because those are the things that will lead to promotion. All right, and promotion means more pay, increase of income, and so forth. Okay, and then survival in the university. If you're a lecturer or a young scholar who have just embarked your master's or your PhD, so the term publish or perish it's very, very relevant these days. Like even in USM, professors are required to publish at least 4 Scopus article per year. So if you're not, then your what do you call your performance, the evaluation of your performance is not too good. Okay, when you do not fulfill your KPI. And of course, even though the self-satisfaction is at the lowest, but it is more satisfying. And I remember if I mention TESOL quarterly, I'm pretty sure most of you in this room who are doing English or English education research, you would know that journal. So when I was able to publish in TESOL Quarterly, which was quite some time ago, and I think it's high time that I start writing again for TESOL Quarterly in 2007. Of course, I gained monetary rewards from the university. Many people invited me to conduct workshops again, and after the workshop, they still gave me money. But I think when you publish in TESOL Quarterly, the biggest satisfaction seeing your name on the first page of the article in the journal, and that lasts forever in my mind and in my experience as an academician. So the money is gone. The money is gone, but what remains is the self-satisfaction. And when you still look at your work, which was, this is more than what, how many years? 15 years ago. The experience, the fact that you publish fulfills your satisfaction. Is no money can buy kind of experience. So the self-satisfaction, even though it's at the bottom, to me, it is always number one. To be able to see your name and feel proud of the hard work that you put in, the amount of pressure, the amount of rigorous work that you need to put in so that you get published in a journal as prestigious as TESOL Quarterly. Okay, so I think to me that's the most valuable, the self-satisfaction, because that keeps you going. So when you publish in one journal, then the hunger, the desire to publish in another will come and come again. Okay, so that is a truly motivating factor. I'm pretty sure Prof. Saido also had such experiences. He has also published a lot. I'm very sure he would remember his first Scopus, or it's like having your first wife. Yeah, Prof. Saido. So you will always remember it's like it's your first girlfriend or your first wife that you ever had. So it stays with your memory even after you retire, I suppose. All right, now I'm slowly moving into more serious stuff, but I think these are some of the information here you need to know and understand so that you have a feel about the why Scopus, so that you understand why the emphasis is given when it comes to publishing in Scopus. Yeah. Well, for beginners, perhaps, there are many avenues of publication. I'm just going to share with you the USM's metrics or the levels of different publication. And the numbers that you see in the brackets are the points that you get if you achieve that in USM when it comes to promotion and so forth. So a conference proceeding is between 1 to 2 marks. 1 if it's a national proceeding, 2 if it's an international proceeding. If it's a chapter in a book, 2 to 4 marks. 2 is minimum 2 is for a national base book, which is done by people in your country. And of course, international is higher. A peer-reviewed national journal, 4 points. A peer-reviewed international journal, 6 points. A peer-reviewed journal index in an international database, Scopus, is 8 points. So you can see the vast difference between a conference proceeding and a Scopus. And I believe USM is the first university in Malaysia which we actually emphasize more on SSCI, not even Scopus. In USM, we are the first university that for promotion and monetary rewards, we emphasize on SSCI or SCIE. This is under WUS, okay? As we go on, I will give more explanation, but just to tell you, and you can see the difference. So if you publish one article in SSCI, it is equals like 5 chapters in the book. So you can see the emphasis on quality, especially in terms of publishing in a journal and publishing in a chapter in a book. Excuse me. Okay. So what is SSCI and all the other terms that you can see on the screen, right? Basically, these are abstract and citation database. Okay, what is a database? Databases are where one unit or one entity or one institution, they collect all the articles, all the abstracts in one database, and they rank it using different scales and so forth. Right. So there are 2 leading databases right now. There are 2 leading databases in the world. One is by Elsevier and one is by Clarivate Analytics. Okay. Also known as previously as WOS or Web of Science. Okay. Now, so when I mention Elsevier, Elsevier is the one who manages the Scopus database. Okay, Elsevier is the one who manages Scopus database, and all the others, you know, ESCI, SSCI, SCIE, AHCI. These are under Web of Science. Now, Elsevier, they put all, they do not categorize the journals like WOS, right? So what WOS or WOS, what they have done, they have 4 categories: ESCI, SSCI, SCIE, and AHCI. ESCI is the category where new journals. So WOS will start monitoring and identify potential journals that may grow and one day will be indexed in Web of Science. Okay. SSCI, those in the field of TESOL, education, science education, we all fall under the category of SSCI, Social Science Citation Index. Okay. And SCIE, Science Citation Index, these are for engineering, medicine, food technology, and so forth, right? AHCI, arts and humanities, like like religious studies, cultural studies, drama studies, music studies, all these fall under AHCI. So they have 4 categories, whereas Elsevier or Scopus, there is just 1 category. So all the sciences, the social sciences, the arts and humanities are all put under 1 category. All right, so this table will give you some of the details of certain things. Yeah. For example, university ranking. Previously, for the Times university ranking, they use Clarivate Analytics. Okay, so they will measure lecturers who published in journals indexed by WOS. But now, more and more universities are using Scopus, QWOS World Ranking, Times Higher Education, World University Ranking. So all these 3 rankings use Scopus, right? Now for impact of article, impact factor, Clarivate Analytics use impact factor, while Scopus use site score. Okay, site score. So these are some of the major differences between Scopus and Clarivate Analytics, or SSCI, in our field. But you should also understand that SSCI is, in terms of quality, they're slightly higher. The indexing process is much more stringent. They are more detailed. They require more quality in terms of publication. right? So for example, I can bravely say, even though I don't have statistics, I can say 90% or even more of the journals that are indexed in Clarivate Analytics are also indexed in Scopus. But if you are indexed in Scopus, it doesn't mean necessarily you are also indexed in WOS. Okay, so that's the difference. So WOS is slightly higher. So for example, in USM, in my university, the monetary rewards are not given to those who publish in Scopus. The monetary rewards are only given to those published in Q1 and Q2, some journals, Q2, of WOS, Web of Science, which is Clarivate Analytics. So you can see that because it is very difficult to publish in WOS index journal, especially SSCI. It's very, very difficult. Okay, all right. So the thing that I would like to highlight, sometimes you have numbers related to a journal. They call it impact factor. Sometimes you receive emails from an unknown journal, and then they say, oh, we have so-and-so impact factor. So please submit your paper or publish with us, and then you need to pay them some money. And then when you get published, you realize it's not the right impact factor, it's the wrong impact factor. So you need to be very, very careful. I receive almost on daily basis, at least 2 or 3 invitations from journals to submit. And you see, good journals like WOS, rarely, very, very rare that they invite you to submit, unless it's for a special issue, or you are a world-class researcher and they want you to contribute to that particular journal, right? So, but the journals that I receive, every day, the emails that I receive, those are money-making journals. They just want to have your articles published, regardless of the quality of your paper. Because for each publication, it may be like minimum of $100 US. Imagine if they have 10 issues, and in each 10 issues, they have 10 articles. Each article is 100. So 100 times 10 is 1,000. 1,000 times 10 is $10,000 US by doing nothing. Imagine, and that is for just one, assuming, just one journal. But usually these predatory companies, they have 4 or 5 or even more. Okay, so you need to be careful. All right, so the concept of impact factor or site score for Scopus. Why do they do this? Why do they have this impact factor or site score? That's how the ranking of the journal is done. For example, right now, the number 1 journal under SSCI is Educational Research Review, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, the impact factor is 8 point something. The impact factor is 8 point something, which is very high. So how do you calculate that impact factor? All right, I will share with you in a bit. All right, so let's say I am Journal A, okay, and I'm the editor, and I would like to calculate my impact factor. What would be my impact factor, the impact factor for my journal? So the formula is very easy, A divided by B. What is A? A is the number of citation in 2020 and 2021. So let's say my journal, every issue I publish 10, and I have 2 issues per year. So it makes 20 papers per year, right? So in my journal, there'll be 20 papers per year, for example, right? And number of citation is how many times those 20 papers are cited in 2020 and another 20 papers in 2021. So the total will be 40, right? So B is the number of articles published in 20 and 2021. So B would be 40. So let's do a rough calculation. So citation for 2020 and 2021 divided by total articles. Let's say citation only 7, okay? And this journal is very low, meaning to say they only publish 1 issue, and each issue there's only 6 articles. No problem, okay? For example, UPG, the journal that I'm the chief editor, when we obtained the Scopus status, we only have 1 issue per year, okay? And usually that issue had about 10 articles, no problem. All they want to see is the quality of the journal. It's not about the number of issues. But then as time goes on, many people started noticing our journal. So now we have 3 issues per year, okay? 3 issues per year as compared to 1 previously. So 7 divided by 12, and your impact factor is 0.5833. This is how the impact factor is calculated. So let's do another calculation now, which is different from the first calculation. The citation were lower than the total number of articles, but here the citation is higher than the number of articles published in 2020 and 2021. So now the impact factor is 2.833. So this is how the impact factor is calculated. So the higher impact factor you have for your journal, the more likely that your journal would be ranked higher. So journals are ranked in 4 quartiles for both SSCI as well as Scopus. Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4, right? So if you are published in Q1 in SSCI, then it depends on the university, then you will be rewarded. I know at least 5 universities in Malaysia, both private and government universities, who reward their lecturers if they get published in Q1 or Q2 of SSCI. So that's the incentive and motivation given by some of the universities, including USM. Right? In my university, they used to give 5,000 per paper, 5,000 ringgit per SSCI paper. How much is that in Bangladeshi money? Prof. Saido, how much is that, 5,000 ringgit? That is a lot. That is a lot, huge.
2 lakh.
2 lakhs, wow. Okay, but then what happened was too many of them, including me, we were publishing, so they lowered from 5,000 to 3,000. Now it is 2,000. Okay, I remember there's one Iraqi researcher from engineering. He had in 1 year about 30 publications. So imagine 30 publications times 5,000 ringgit at that time. So this is the incentive, you know, and this is very important for the university. Okay, so that's why I think I'm also invited here to share why publishing in Scopus is also very, very important. Okay, so just now, this one is for impact factor under WOS. This one is for site score under Scopus. The calculation is almost similar. The only difference is that the site score uses documents from 3 years. Document from 3 years. But SSCI or WOS uses from 2 years. Okay, so the same formula, A divided by B. Okay, A divided by B, and I just give you an example. So the site score is 0.3. The formula is the same, but there's a slight difference. Citation in 2015. Okay, the calculation is slightly different. A is citation in 2015 and documents from 3 years. Okay, document in 3 years. So that's the major difference when we talk about Scopus and WUS in terms of impact factor and site score. Okay. Right. Now, why is publishing in Scopus is very difficult? Sometimes it takes a few months, and sometimes it takes many years. You know, my first article took me 3 years to get published, from the day I submitted to the day it was published. Right. So because the process is rigorous, they have a very thorough system. But basically, I can show you in this diagram how the entire process works. Okay, you as an author, you submit your paper to the editor, and if the editor feels no, this manuscript is not suitable for my journal, so instant rejection. Okay, so if you submit today and you get an email tomorrow, don't be happy. Don't be happy. That is, I would say 99% is a rejection email, or there's a problem with your, what do you call a problem with your submission. So don't be happy, oh, my article is going to be accepted. I'm so. Very good, very quick submission, all right? And feedback from the editor means always a sad news, yeah? I think Prof. Seido is smiling, so he knows the experience. Okay, so if the editor feels, okay, it's a nice manuscript, it has its values, it has its contribution, then it will be sent out for reviews. Minimum of 2 reviews. I have never seen a Scopus journal with just 1 reviewer, never. So a minimum of 2, and I've also experienced a maximum of 5. Okay, so how they work with a maximum of 5 is that the first 3 reviewers who submit their report are the ones will be used for to make the final decision. So if the editor likes it, so he will send to a minimum of 2, a maximum of 5, and then they'll try to make a decision. Okay. So it could be, let's say, a minimum of 2. It could be yes, no. It could be no, no. So a yes, no, and a no, no sometimes could be a rejection as well. Okay. No, yes, yes, yes. Usually it is a resubmit, and then you make your correction. Even if you have done your correction, don't feel confident, because the editors can still reject at that stage. I remember one of my papers I submitted to a very high-ranking journal related to reading. It went through all the 5 reviewers, and they asked me to resubmit with correction. When I resubmitted, they still rejected. They said, your revision, they said they can see that I've revised, the paper has changed a lot, but they cannot see the contribution. So they rejected. So I actually wasted a lot of time. Not say wasted, I invested a lot of time, but I learned some valuable lessons along the way. Okay. And of course, you can do correction, and then, of course, getting published. That's what we want. So you can see here from this process that it takes time. It's not like 1 or 2 months. Yeah, it takes sometimes a minimum of 6-7 months, and up to 2 years or 3 years before it can be published. Why is this so? Because Scopus journals, they have a rigorous system in place, and process and procedures to ensure quality of research, of writing, of the entire manuscript, and so that they want to compete. Why do they want to compete? Because the journals also want to achieve the Q1, the Q2s, ranking in Scopus or even in SSCI. So everywhere you go, you have this rat race where the quality, the ranking is very much emphasized. Okay. Well, we cannot run away from this because this is the game. You know, in this century, this is the game. Okay, I'm just going to pause my sharing, and I want to do some live exploration of Scopus. Yeah. Okay, Prof. Saido, can you see the Scopus website?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this is the Scopus website. So just type Scopus in Google and it will take you there. For those who have no Scopus account, you can create your account, okay, and you can sign in and they'll give you an ID number, right? Just explore and, you know, just learn what is there. So let me do some author search. So, okay, so I'm going to search my own name. But just to, not to warn you, but just to explain to you, Scopus, they do not give everything for free. So you need to subscribe. If your institution is subscribing to Scopus, then Alhamdulillah is very good. My institution also, USM also subscribes to Scopus, but I'm not connected because I'm not in campus. I can also connect from outside campus, but I need to have the password and so forth. So it's a bit messy, so I'm not going to do that. But I'm just going to show you some things which will maybe trigger you. So when you search for your, I mean, you can also search for, say, Prof. Saidos. He has more publication than me. So you, yes, you do. You can look at the publication. So how many publications are Scopus, the H index, affiliation documents, see the view. I think I'm not logged in. That's why I'm not able to see. But my aim for you is just explore Scopus, you know, create an account, get an ID so that you can start off as a researcher and you may want to try to publish in Scopus related journals. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to my presentation. Okay, where is my presentation? Okay. Okay, so you can do that. You can search for yourself or other people. These are some of the articles that you can find. Hold on. Okay, so it will be something like this when you're looking for authors and you just want to get some info. But if you have the account, there are more infos that you can find, like how many people have cited your work, if you can see on the right-hand side of the paper. But this is not, that means how many Scopus journals have cited your work, okay? So when you do a Google Scholar search and a Scopus search, you will see different numbers. Scopus, because they put in, Google, because they put in everything, Scopus journal, non-Scopus journal, conference proceeding, books and everything. But Scopus, the citation, my highest citation is this one, Facebook, this one, sorry. And about, I think 220, now maybe slightly more. So this 220 is solely journals or books that are indexed by Scopus. Whatever that is non-Scopus, they do not put it in. Okay. All right. All right. So the first half is done. I just gave you a fundamental basic concepts of Scopus and everything so that you have an idea. Now I'm going to go a bit more detail. I have to go back to Google again. Hold on, yeah. Stop share.
Professor Kabilan, I guess
yes,
we'll be taking the question and answer later, right? At the end of the
session. How many hours am I given? I think it's 2 hours, right?
Yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah. Okay, after this, maybe we'll go through the Q&A. I think Q&A is much more important, right? But I think I need to do this so that I can show them. Hold on, okay. Let me share. Okay, share screen. All right, what we have now . What we have now, I'm just going to go through with you, all of you. This is a Scopus journal, teaching and teacher education. Now, this is one example where it is a Scopus journal as well as a WUS journal, SSCI. Okay. Now, if you look on the right, it says to you the impact factor. The impact factor of this journal is 3.272. Okay, ranking it 65 out of 264 in education and educational research. So with the impact factor of 3.272, this is number 6. That means out of 264 journals in the field of education and educational research, it is number 65. Okay. But having said that, even though it is number 65, it is not an easy journal to publish in. I have published in this journal way back in 2013, I think, can't remember. But I went through 3 times review process. The review was 3 times, you know. They asked a lot of questions. So the first time I revised, submitted, still not satisfied, again revised, submitted. Third time, again revised, submitted, and only on the 4th time they accepted. All right. So if you want to, there you can see here the site score. At the bottom left, the site scores. The site score is 6.1. This is the site score that I was talking about just now, which is from Scopus. And you can see that the impact factor is much lower, okay, compared to the site score. The site score is 3.1 because it takes into account the 3 years. Remember the formula, 3 years. This is by Scopus, but by WUS, it is 3.272 because it only takes into account 2 years. Okay, and also you can see review time, 8.9 weeks. That means about 3 months. Yeah, it's about 3 months. So these are the kind of information that you should look for before you even start writing. Many researchers do this mistake. They write and then they try to look for a suitable, journal. That is not right. And that is why many of us, including me, when I first started, we get rejected because we forget about the journal. We are only focused on our research and our paper. Okay, we think that our paper is the best paper in the world. And when it gets rejected, why are you rejecting the best paper in the world? That's the feeling you get. But if you want to be the best paper in the world, then you need to consider the journal's aim and scope. Only then, within the journal, you see, one journal does not publish everything and anything under the sun. Okay, so each journal, they have their specific niche area. Each journal have specific aims and scope. So you need to focus on those aims and scope. What do they want? So rather than writing something that you like, why don't you write something that you like and the journal would also like? So in order to do that, we need to know what does the journal want. Okay, so when you are searching for a journal, let's say we come to teaching and teacher education, because this is a Q1 journal, all right? The impact factor is high, the site score is high, you know, within 3 months, the review process is not too bad, okay? But there is a publishing article fees, okay? If you want to have it open access. But if you have no money, no problem, don't make it open access. Now, the most important part of this website that you need to read for teaching and teacher education is this one, aim and scope. And every aim and every sentence has its meaning, okay? So let's go through one by one. Okay, Teaching and Teacher Education is an international journal concerned primarily with teachers, teaching, or teacher education, situated in an international perspective and context. A lot of information there, which should tell you, okay? So if you're writing, your paper is about learning styles of Bangladeshi pupils and Malaysian pupils learning reading, contohnya, for example. If you're doing that, and that's your title, believe me, your paper will be rejected. Because if you look at the first sentence, they already make it clear. Teachers, teaching, or teacher education. They made it very clear. This journal is specifically for teachers, issues related to teachers, teaching, not learning, not learners, and teacher education. So if you submit something related to learning styles, learning strategies, learning motivation, it's not going to be accepted, okay? Perhaps learning motivation of pre-service teachers, because it has teacher education. Maybe that one they will accept, okay? All right, so, but the other part is that situated in an international perspective and context. International perspective and context, meaning to say, if you write everything about, you know, let's say your article is about teachers' motivation, and you focus on Malaysia. The first sentence is Malaysia. The second sentence is Malaysian teachers. The third paragraph, Malaysian teaching system. The fourth page is about Malaysian research done in the Malaysian context. And there is no international perspective or context. It's not going to be accepted. Okay? So in this one short sentence, there are so many information that you should understand. And therefore, using this information, you can start sort of like planning or outlining for your paper. Okay. After this, we'll have some Q&A. I'm very sure you're very much interested in this. Next sentence. The journal focuses on early childhood through high school teacher preparation, along with higher education concerning teacher professional development and or teacher education. All right. So they have no problem in accepting from kindergarten, childhood, or primary or secondary, teacher preparation, higher education, but it should concern teacher professional development and or teacher education. So again, they're going narrower and narrower. They're already identifying, they're already telling you, I don't take other papers if you do not fulfill these two sentences. They are focusing on teacher professional development and or teacher education. All right. Okay, third sentence. All right. So this is the third sentence. What type of manuscript do they accept? This one is a good news because they are quite open about it. They are, they're welcoming many types of papers. So teaching and teacher education is a multidisciplinary journal. Okay, so multidisciplinary means they accept, for example, teaching maths using counseling approaches, contohnya, for example, right? So it's a multidisciplinary. So no single approach. So that means they accept quantity, they accept qualitative study, they accept mixed method or any kinds of paradigms or methodologies. Okay. The journal welcomes varied approaches to empirical research, also publishing high quality systematic review and meta-analysis. So systematic review and meta-analysis papers are also accepted. Now, not yet, we still have more sentences to chew, understand, and have a concept. Okay, if I write paper for this journal, would they accept? So all the information that have been given so far, it's very specific and focused. Manuscript should enhance, build upon, extend the boundaries of theory, research, practice. So that means they want these three things. Sorry, 6 things. Should enhance, build, extend boundaries of theory, research, and practice. Okay, so they don't want the same old idea being repeated and repeated. That means they want new things, enhance, build upon. So from here, where do we go next? Extend the boundary of theories. So maybe your finding says, oh, according to this theory, the normal finding is A, B, C. But now my study shows A, B, C, and D. So extending the boundaries of theory, research, and practice. Previously, people have only done qualitative studies in this area of professional development. My study is exploring it from a quantitative point of view, extending. Practice. Previously, the practice was very limited in the classroom. Now, this study has shown that the practice could be done in classroom as well as outside classroom. So if your manuscript is able to do that, enhance, build upon, extend boundaries of theories, research, and practice in the field of teaching and teacher education, then inshallah, it will be accepted, provided you also fulfill all the other description that is given in the aims and scope. Okay. All right. They also tell you teaching and teacher education does not publish unsolicited book reviews. Teaching and Teacher Education does not accept proposal for guest editorship and special issues. Right? So these are some of the things that by looking at the aims and scope should already conceptualize some ideas in your mind, what kind of paper that I should plan and write and submit to this particular journal. So it's not simply writing and submitting. This is the first step that you should be doing. What is the second step? The second step is you should be looking at what kind of articles they have published previously. How does your idea or your manuscript would fit in or extend the boundaries of theories, research, and practice that have been published in other papers? Okay, all right. So, Prof. Saido, I think we can, because it's already very near, I think let's entertain some questions. If I need to, then I will go on, but let's entertain some questions. And also give me some break time to drink some water.
The first question that we have is from Abdullah Yusuf, and he has asked, is it allowed to replicate a MPhil or PhD research work done in a different context, in a different context, as you explained earlier?
He's talking about master's and PhD thesis.
MPhil, PhD?
He's talking about MPhil and PhD.
MPhil and PhD. That is out of topic from this session. But anyway, I will try to. So I'm trying to understand. That means replicate MPhil for PhD. Is that what you mean?
Abdullah Yusuf, if you're here, you can unmute and ask the questions for the clarification. I think he's asking about whether he can replicate the PhD work of maybe self-replication, his own work.
Yeah. Well, I would question why do you want to self-replicate? So where is your contribution? Yeah, where would your contribution be? And it also shows, it says a lot of things, when you start off with replication, as an examiner, I would say, don't you have other things to examine? There are so many problems in the world related to education, and yet you still want to replicate. So that's the other question. Unless it is genuinely something that has been done elsewhere, and you think it is worthwhile to be replicated in Bangladesh or Malaysia or anywhere that you're from, then I see no harm in it. But then your case must be very, very strong if you want to do that. Okay, next question.
All right, the next question is from Hasibul Islam. He has asked, my question to Professor Kabilan, what are the types of research are getting more priorities for publishing in the Scopus? My another question to Professor, can you please put your opinions?
Let's go one by one. I may not recall them. Let's go one by one. Okay, what kind of research? You see, that's why I said, see, you're still bound by the old paradigm of thought, meaning to say you're looking from yourself. A lot of scholars, they feel that what they have written has value. But you need to remember, when we are writing, when in the game or industry of journal publication, it is not a $1 or $2 business. It is a multi-billion-dollar business. Okay, see. You as an author, one stakeholder, and then we have the editor, another stakeholder, and then we have the reviewers, another stakeholder, and then we have the publishers, another stakeholders, and then we have the university, who are the purchasers, and then we have the student, the postgraduate student, the degree student, the PhD students, who are the end users, and then we also have academics like myself and Prof. Saido and maybe many of you in this session right now, who are also end users. And then you have other researchers who would be using findings from this publication. But if you're looking from yourself, from your point of view, and you do not consider all these people, you're not going to publish. So the first thing, like I said just now, you should be looking like what's on your screen right now. What is the aim and scope of this journal? And then what do you have to offer? Look, you asked me that question, what kind of research? Look, in this journal, they accept qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods, no problem. They also accept research, empirical research papers, quality systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So it's not about what kind of research that you are doing for publication. That is also important. I'm not saying it is not important. It is important, but please consider what the journal has to offer. So if your you're doing a research which is related to teacher education, and it fulfills all the criteria that we have examined together, and you are doing a qualitative study, no problem. No problem. So rather than focusing on what you have to offer, focus on what you have to offer and what the journal has to offer. And when there is a match, inshallah, it will be accepted. Having said that, see, for example, there are many journals which focuses very much on qualitative. For example, the qualitative report, it's a Q1 journal, and obviously from the name, we realize it is a journal that focuses on qualitative studies, right? Like this journal, they focus on qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method, no problem. There are also other journals, hundreds of them, who only accept quantitative papers because these journals, they emphasize on different things, okay? So I want everyone here, especially the students who are in this webinar right now, you have to change your mindset. Forget about what you have to offer. What you need to focus is what you have to offer that will be able to fulfill what the journal wants. So it's what you want to publish as well as what the journal wants to publish, okay? There must be a match. I hope that answers the question. Okay, Rohini, second question, please.
Yes, sir. His another question is, can you please put your opinions on qualitative and quantitative research? Which kinds get more priority to publish in Scopus?
Okay, I think I have answered the question clearly.
Yes, sir,
okay,
you have.
So,
yes.
Okay, but anyway, just to emphasize, there is no one research method that is better than the other. All research methods have strength. All research methods has weaknesses. Okay, so how you negotiate, how you navigate between those strengths and the weaknesses, that is most important, right? And as I advised just now, if you're going to do qualitative, then look for the right avenue. Journals like this, they accept quality, quantity, and mixed method, so no problem. Some journals, obviously, by their name, like qualitative report, if you submit quantitative study, they are not going to accept. Okay, and some quantitative journals, if you send qualitative, they are not going to accept. So that's why it is very important to read the aims and scope. Sometimes the aims and scope would not have enough information. So what you need to do is write to the chief editor. Dear editor, I'm looking at the aims and scope. I was wondering whether A, B, C would be suitable. All right. Then attached is the abstract of the paper. Do you think it would be reviewed or you're going to reject it? Okay, I've done that many times. And some journals say, this is not suitable unless you do this, or straight away rejection. I don't think you should submit to this journal because we focus on ABC, for example. Some editors, they advise, oh, okay, why don't you send it first and let us have a look and see how it goes. So sometimes the editor also not sure, so they want to see the full paper. So that's the other thing that you can do. Okay. All right, next question.
All right. There's a comment from Professor Brina Ahmed. I share the knowledge you shared with us in a workshop in IUM with my research methodology class, and they say that it is the easiest way to understand research and publication.
Oh, Sabrina Ahmad. Oh, okay. It's a man, not
It's a
a
comment,
question.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, she's very.
Yes, Sabrina, nice to see you again here. I met her many years ago when she was still doing her PhD. Alhamdulillah. Okay, other questions?
Ends, yeah, all the questions that we have.
Rohini
to now.
madam, good evening. I had a question.
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Kabilan.
Yes, good evening.
For your wonderful presentations. I just wanted to know, is there any possibility to publish in your journal, the journal showing right now on the screen, teachers, teacher education, without the publishing charge?
Oh, yes. Okay. Okay, I need to explain what this means. Article publishing charge. Okay. Now, this journal does not charge any fees for publishing. Okay, does not charge. Do you know what is OA? OA stands for open access. Okay. So, for example, when I published in this journal, they will send you an email after your paper is accepted. So they said, dear Dr. Kabilan, congratulations. We are now accepting your paper, blah, 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 blah. And then they will give you an option. Do you want to make your paper open access? Okay, they will ask you this question. Do you want to make your paper open access? If you say open access, yes, then they will put it online, meaning to say everyone and anyone from any part of the world will be able to access without paying. So when you pay $2,140 US, I think this is $40 US, when you pay $2,140 US, meaning to say you will make that article available for free for everyone in the world. So why do people want open access? So people like me, for example, my university emphasizes on citation. So when the paper is there, people can read and people can cite, right? So meaning to say, if they publish and they cite me, meaning my citation will increase. When my citation increases, that means it in a way contributes to the ranking of my university. So some universities, what they do, they support their researchers by paying the article publishing charge by their research grant, and many other avenues. Okay, so if you don't have money, no problem. You can still publish here. They won't charge you a single cent, but you will not be able to, not you, I mean other people like me. Let's say if I come across your title and I say, oh, this is very interesting, but I will not be able to download or read. The most they will give is the abstract and the references. Okay, so I can only read the abstract and the references, and that's it. I wouldn't know what methods you use in detail, the specific findings, the conclusion that you have done. Okay, so open access is a way of making your articles available for free for everyone from any parts of the world. If you don't have money, you just don't pay the access fee, okay? The open access fee. But some art journals, even before you publish, they go through the review process, and when they accept your paper, you need to publish. That is different. That is publishing fee. That is publishing fee. Some journals do that, okay? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Kabilan.
Yeah, okay. Other questions?
Not at this moment. I think we can continue with your session.
Any other questions from the chat room?
No other questions from the chat room yet.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let me continue with, I have about 30 minutes more, yeah?
Yes, another half an hour.
Yes. Okay. Now, let me continue. I'm still at what you call teaching and teacher education. Now, apart from aims and scope, the other part that you should be reading is guidelines for the author. Okay, guidelines for the author. And all good journals will have guidelines for their authors. Okay, like this is teaching and teacher education. This is the guidelines, because in the guidelines, they will tell you how many thousand words. Okay, your paper could be the best in the world that you have submitted. Everybody will agree with you. But then if your paper is 10,000 words, okay, but this journal only accepts, let's say 7,000. I think this journal only accepts 8,000 or 9,000 words. Then they will still reject your paper because it did not fulfill the guidelines for the authors. Okay. If they like your paper, what they'll do, they will return it to you and say, please truncate it or please shorten it to 9,000 words the most. Okay. For teaching and teacher education, I'm actually writing a paper right now. We are in the last stages and we are going to submit this. For this journal, the references, the tables and the figures are not part of the word count, okay? All the other, so my word count initially, even I know it's 9,000, it's still exceeded to 10,000 because when you're writing in a group, you're not able to control, right? So it exceeded by 1,000. So I spent about 1 week time just to lower it from 10,000 to 9,000. You see, it is very much easy to add in words than to delete phrases or words. Why? Because when you delete something, there could be another part of the paper which requires that particular information that you have deleted. So you need to balance up. Adding is so much easier compared to deleting or making it shorter. All right, let's go to the guide for the authors. So if you can see on the screen, okay, there's the section there, guide for the authors. Okay, now you can see that the guide for the authors, there are so many things. Okay, there are so many things that you need to do. So if you're interested, like the person who asked me that question, you know, he wants to submit to this journal without paying, no problem, but you need to read all these things, you know. For example, this is something new, which have been the trend for the last 5 years or so, okay? Use of inclusive language. So for example, let me just show you one example. Avoid using he, she, or he or she. Okay. So if you are going to write this paper and you still include things like this, the editor would know that you have not used an inclusive language. Okay. And they would comment, obviously you did not read the guideline for the authors, and they will reject. They don't bother about rejecting your paper just because you're not using an inclusive language. But why? Because they receive hundreds and hundreds of papers, maybe in a week time. So to reject one is not a big issue for them, right? So there are many things that you need to know. All right, and then author's contribution. Not like those days, you can just simply submit without thinking about author's contribution. They want, now these are the things that do, and also other things, copyright, author's right, role of funding source, open access, language, submission, okay, revision time, and there are many things. language, whether you like to write in British or American. Okay, please write your text in good English, but not a mixture of this. Okay, like some people like to use italics. Okay, so there are so many things. Even methods and methodology and methods, you need to, how you should be addressing the conclusion. How should be appendix? Is it 1, 2, 3, A, B, C? So here is appendix A, B, title, author's name, corresponding author, who is that, abstract, highlights, this is something new also. Okay, abbreviations, footnotes, word limit. This is the word limit is 9,000, excluding table references. Okay, because when you submit, they will actually ask, there is a, in the system, there's a space. You need to write down the exact total number of words used, excluding tables and references. Okay. So if you do not, the other thing, please ensure that your references are APA 7th compliant. So that means you need to use the latest APA. So if all this while you have been using the 6th edition, like me, so I also have to change. I also have to now focus on 7th edition. Okay. And there's on, and there are so many things. Okay. If you go up there, you can actually download guide for authors in PDF. So you can download this and save it. So whenever that you are free, you can read, or you can refer when you are actually writing for this journal. Okay, so can we have another session of Q&A? Maybe there are questions.
Yes, there's another question from Rubayan Asif. He's saying, though out of context, my query to Honorable Keynote Speaker is how a novice researcher can identify that a particular journal is predatory. Does an article's being predatory depend on low charge, lacking DOI, or other different factors? Does asking publishing charge make a journal predatory? What are the criteria really? Okay.
Yes, you are right in most of the question that you have asked. Right, meaning to say, I think you are suspicious of this. That's why you're asking the question. So I agree with for most. So how do we? But the fundamental question I understand is that how do we identify a predatory journal? A predatory journal will always email you. You will never find Elsevier, Blackwell, Wiley and Sons, or Taylor and Francis emailing you, asking you to submit an article for your journal. Okay, that is number one. But we also have genuine journals, which are maybe university-based or institution-based, like Prof. Saido. You guys have come up with a new journal, right? Bangladesh TESOL or something like that. So most probably Prof. Saido will email you guys. Don't think of it as a predatory journal. So yeah, another way to identify is that usually these predatory journals will not have names. They will only put editor, editor of journal XYZ, chief editor or editorial board. They will never reveal their names. But I'm very sure Prof. Saido, when he emails, he will put there, Prof. Saido Rahman, Chief Editor of Bangladesh TESOL, so and so and so. So that's the number two. Number three, the predatory journal will always make promises. We will publish this in 1 month, in 2 weeks, in 1 week, in 3 weeks. Such promises will never be made by authentic publishers like Elsevier, Blackwell, Taylor and Francis, or even Prof. TESOL's new journal, they are not going to make such promises because such promises does not fall in with rigorous review process because it is very difficult to get review processes. What else?
Another question within that.
Yes, there's another question.
You was talking about.
Can't hear. It's very not audible.
Rohini.
Yes, sir, I'm going. There's another question from Abdullah Al Mamun. He's asking, what is your suggestions for a person who starts to write research for his master level education?
Can you be a bit more specific? What is it that you want? Because I can give you 1001 advice. I don't think you want that. Can you be more specific? For example, which journal should I go to, or what is it? What is it that you want? Abdullah, is Abdullah, right?
Where is Abdullah?
Abdullah Al Mamun, are you here?
You can ask the question directly.
Yes, I'm right here. Okay.
Okay. Can you be specific in your question? What is it that you want me? You want me to advise in terms of what? Writing or sending, or what is it that you need help?
So this is what I mean, selecting a topic or kind of we can say abstract. I mean, how to write an abstract. Okay, in the very beginning, we don't find how to write an abstract.
Or abstract. Okay. From my experience, abstract is the last bit that you write because you don't have an idea how the paper will be developed. So abstract is the very last bit that we write because abstract is an overview of the entire paper, you know? So you don't write it at the beginning. I suggest in your case, if you have no idea what is it or how is it that you're going to write as a novice researcher, if you're doing your master's, okay, let's start from your master's. If you are doing your master's, if you have 3 research questions, okay, most probably you will be able to write 3 research papers, okay, or 2 research papers from that research question. You can also write other papers, like if you have a good literature review, then you can write a review paper as well. So if you have 3 research questions, then these 3 research questions can each lead to 1 paper. Sometimes 2 research questions need to be combined so that 2 research questions would be sufficient enough for a paper, right? It also depends on the length of your thesis, the depth of your thesis, and the data that is available. But for a PhD, of course, PhD is much more detailed. The depth is much more deeper, and you have more things to write, and you're very sure that you would have collected more data. So you can publish more papers from your PhD as compared to your master's. But to start off, a good idea is to start from your research objective, okay? From there, you can sort of like copy and paste some of the introduction, some of the literature review, and put them together. And then you can sort of like, you know, rewrite them just to make sure there is fluency and coherency from start to finish. Okay, I hope that helps, Abdullah.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, other questions?
No, there's yes, there's another question from Saidur Rahman sir. No, there's actually no more question for
Prof. Saidur is asking questions.
No, sir, it's my mistake.
No more questions.
So shall we continue with the presentation?
Okay, all right. Right, so now we have looked at the, what do you call, the guide, right? So first, the aims and scope, then you need to read the guide for the authors, and you really need to understand everything, okay? Now, what I usually do is that I will go to previous previous publications. Let's see if I can get some, okay? Okay, mentoring, August, teacher efficacy in teacher. All right, so let's say you are writing something related to mentoring of novice TESOL teachers, okay? Let's say you're doing that. Huh? So now you have this special issue, teacher efficacy in teaching and teacher education, whereby some of these papers include mentoring, involvement of teacher efficacy and so forth. So what you need to do, go through the papers, the title, especially the title for the first part of it, and see how the titles that have been published and your own title that you have in your mind, how do they reconcile, how they are connected, how they could be connected, right? So then maybe out of these 16 or 15 articles, maybe 5 you see they are very much relevant, okay? So look at those 5 articles more closely, okay? The other 10 articles you can discard. Focus on these 5 articles, see what kind of research that they have done, the objective, what are the research questions, what are the methods that they use, what is the significance of the study, and most importantly, what suggestions have been given in terms of future studies, right? So in the conclusion of good papers, the researcher would always suggest further studies that should be conducted in that particular area, right? And they will always say in the conclusion, based on this study, we suggest that future researchers should examine mentoring of TESOL students or TESOL pre-service teachers from the perspective of theory A, for example, right? And by chance, let's say that is what you're doing. So now what you have one literature that from the same journal, which suggests that future studies should examine this. And let's say by chance, that is what you intend to do. So now you have, this is what I said just now, you know, this is what you want to publish, and this is what the journal wants to publish. So there is a congruence. There is a match, okay? So you can cite this person, okay? This study or this manuscript is a result of a suggestion made by John 2017 in the special issue of Teacher and Teacher Education. So you actually mentioning the name. So by doing so, the editor will realize just you are doing this or you are writing this manuscript as a suggestion made in the Teaching and Teacher Education journal. Well, even though that could be the case, but if your journal has, if your article has no quality, they will still reject it. Okay, so having shown the match, having made the match, you also need to ensure that there is quality. Okay, once you do that, then it's easier. All right, let's say you don't find anything. Then what you need to read through are the conclusion. See, many, I don't know how you read the articles, but I read it. If I'm researching something, I look for information in the conclusion first. Why conclusion? Because conclusion is the summary, the overall insight, critical insight that the authors have gained as a result of them doing the research, right? So if I'm looking for critical information, I will always look in the conclusion, because the conclusion tells so many things that you may not realize at the first hand. Okay, that is how I work, because I feel when you look at the conclusion, those are the expression, the words, the understanding, the insight of the researchers. Okay, because all the introduction, the literature review, the methods, and even the findings are not from the authors. The findings are from the respondents. The introduction, obviously the literature is there. The literature review is based on what other people have done. The theories are the result of what other people have suggested. Methods are the standard procedure of carrying out the researchers, right? So the only thing that is yours is the conclusion. And that is also why I always believe when you are writing the conclusion, I have seen journal articles. I can understand because I was once a student. So when you write the introduction, literature review, methods, findings, you tend to write the shortest conclusion. How many of you have experienced that? Because you are nearing the end. Okay, this is the end. Okay, thank you very much, the end. So that is your conclusion, you know? But if you carefully look at good papers, the conclusion is the most critical one. Sometimes it's the longest one because there are so many things that you want to say, all right? You want to talk about the methods. You want to conclude about the methods. You want to conclude the findings. You want to conclude, okay, what further research? You want to, in the conclusion, that's where you suggest implications of your study. Maybe there is a new model, new theory, so you need to explain the theory. So all these things are in conclusion. So how do you move that? How do you extract those things? That is very, very important. In writing conclusion, you see, you have done everything. In the conclusion now, what usually the authors do is they try to find a shortcut as quickly as possible because it's the end. So they try to write a very brief conclusion that does not encapsulate all the rich issues that was found in the findings. How are you going to, based on the findings, solve the problem in the introduction? All those things should come in the conclusion. Okay. All right. So I think maybe there are some questions.
Yes, sir, there are some questions. The first one is from Hassan Mahmoud. He is asking, should apprentice researchers go for the nationally indexed journals in order to get motivated to master their research procedures? Peer-reviewed journals or conference proceedings? Which one could be better for the novice researchers?
When you say novice researchers, I presume that you're working with your supervisors, right? But when you're working with your supervisors are no novices. They are experts like Prof. Saido, and other professors here. They are no longer novices. So you should work closely with them and try to, all my students, when they write, they will submit to Q1 SSCI. Like there's one student, he published in Call computer-assisted language learning journal. This was to 2020. He submitted, he asked me where to submit. He wanted to submit to a lower journal. I said, no, you submit to a SSCI Q1. So we started with BJET, Computer and Education, and all the journals rejected. So when we came to the fifth one, which is computer-assisted language learning, they were interested, right? So my advice is, I am ambitious, and I want my students to be ambitious as well. I try to instill motivation and positivism into them and say that you can do it as well. So to me, there is no really, the term novice researchers does not make sense to me, because behind you, you have experienced researchers who are your supervisors. So you fall on your supervisors, work with them closely, you know, and supervisors, I mean, this is an advice to myself, I'm also a supervisor. You need to contribute meaningfully to the students' work. Some supervisors, sadly, they just ask their students to write without any contribution and just get the name, which is not right. So when you have meaningful interaction between the students and the supervisors, you have the discussion, both of you make the paper better, then there is always a possibility of getting it published in a very, very good journal. Okay? So my suggestion, go very high and fall very, very bad so that you learn. Fall with a thumb, boom, then you will learn, okay? But take it positively. So if you get reviewed and you have your review, they will give you a review, learn from your mistakes. That is the best way of getting out of this cocoon of a novice researcher. I don't believe in novice researcher, because when I was novice, I published in SSCI. So to me, it's not so much of being a novice researcher, but being more motivated, being more specific, more immaculate in terms of your approach to writing. Inshallah, you'll be able to publish. Okay. Next question.
All right, our next question is from Ruying Am. She's asking, or he's asking, Professor, I want to ask that if we want to publish a paper, is it better for us to decide which journal to publish first and then write the paper, or we'd better write the paper first and then decide which journal to publish?
Okay, decide which journal. Like I said, I've been saying all night long, go to the, like just now, the example that I've given, go to the journal, read the aims and scope, number one, and then read the guidelines for the authors, and then look at the previous papers that have been published. Are they similar or not similar? How can your paper or the one that you have in your mind could extend and enrich the current paper? So if you see there's a link, then that's the best way. Writing the paper first and then deciding the journal. If you are lucky, you may get published, you know, but usually you will get rejected. Because as an editor myself, many times I give comments that this paper does not suit the aims and scope of this journal. Many times, if there are 10 papers submitted, at least 3 are rejected because they do not fulfill the aims and scope. And also another 3 do not fulfill the quality. Okay. I have a question that I would like to ask by unmuting, please. Okay.
Assalamualaikum, Prof. Am I audible?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Prof, I run theses, like I supervise thesis in Prague University with our students. So I try to pick topics which are, up-to-date and topics which are internationally, like recognized more. But sometimes they ask me like how to get this information. Usually what Prof. Ratnawati of IIUM has taught us that we go through ProQuest and OATD and see the latest thesis and get to know what is happening. Could you give us more ideas on hot topics of ELT and how I can guide my supervisors? Yeah.
Okay. Now, the topics for supervision, you see, I mean, I'm advising for budding supervisors like Sabrina, right? When you want to supervise students. You see, it's a balance, it's a very delicate relationship between a supervisor and a student. The student may have their own interests, and obviously the supervisor will also have their own interests. So you want to find, again, the match, all right? So why don't you do something that both of you would be interested? Number one, the interest is very important because the interest is the motivation. Without the motivation, a student will not be able to finish the PhD or the master's. So if both of you are interested, for example, I'm in the field of ICT. So now I only supervise students, try to supervise students who only look at ICT, teacher professional development, teacher education. So I have to be professional. Even though I need more students, if the student comes in and wants to do something on reading is not my area. Even though I know a bit, but I may not know. So I pass that student to another colleague of mine who have done extensive research, writing and publication on teaching of reading and so forth, because I feel that is the best supervisor for that particular student. So when we do that, then people will recognize our scholarship, meaning to say our expertise, what are we experts are. Because when you grow as an associate professor and then when you are applying for a professorship, people must know you as a professor of what, in what area are you professing. So that is one thing. The way of getting new topics or new ideas is very easy. Just look at, okay, let's say ICT and education. Okay, let's take that area. Okay, never mind. Sabrina, what is your area? Let me know your area. What are you interested in?
Prof, I did my PhD on critical thinking and writing. So basically ELT and skills, all these skills I can, I'm okay with. So students come up with ELT topics with me.
Okay, let's take writing. So there is journal, second language writing, SLW, which is a Q1 journal. So you go to that journal and you try to identify what are the current issues that have been published, what kind of research that people have published. And you ask your student, if your student comes to you and you want, he or she wants to do something to do with writing, okay, so you assign, okay, this is second language writing journal. I want you to read the last 5 years. That means 2021, 20, 2019, 18, and 17, 5 years. Read, go through, see what are something which are new, and try to connect with what you would like to do. Okay. If you're doing multidisciplinary, for example, second language writing and critical thinking. So I think there is also another journal, Cogent Thinking, I think, Cogent Education, which also publishes a lot on critical thinking, right? So for research that is multidisciplinary, then the students have to read different journals. Okay, so hopefully that would be helpful, Sabrina.
Yeah, thank you, Prof.
Yes. Maybe one last question before we stop for tonight. It is already 10:01, 10:01 p.m. One last question?
There's no question, Professor. This was all the questions that we had. till now.
Okay. All right. So with that, I think I'll stop here. Thank you very much for listening.
Professor,
I
we
want to
have
know
another question.
maximum and minimum time a good paper will take. Oh, okay. I think you're talking about the time taken to write a good paper, right? Let me share my own experience now. When I was writing for my TQ article, it took me about 5 to 6 months. So I actually did paragraph by paragraph. So every sentence leading to another sentence, leading to another sentence. So it took me a lot of time. Okay. So if you want to write a very good paper, you need to invest time and effort. Okay. Apart from time and effort, thinking. You need to, the ideas have to be fresh, has to be new, and you are using the right sources. Okay, not predatory journal articles to cite your work. So you need to make sure that the sources are also of high quality. So all these things has to be in place. So you have to, basically you have to invest time, effort, and thinking. Without that, you will not be able to publish good papers. And you have to be patient, right? As a chief editor of UpG, I receive a lot of emails, you know. Sometimes they just submitted last week and then this week they want to know whether it is accepted. You see, like I said, good journals takes a long time because the process is complex. So you need to invest time. When it comes to publication, believe me, you need to take your time, plan, invest time, effort. Inshallah, you will get published. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much. And I hand over to the organizers.
Last question from my side.
Oh, okay. Prof. Saido, you have a question.
I always follow your Facebook post and all this happening. Just a one query: how do you handle the frustration if you're being an experienced researcher? How do you handle rejection by journals? When
rejection.
Do you always agree with the editorial decision?
Okay. You know what I do if my paper is rejected? You see the email, right? The email comes in. Then you read the email rejection. Okay. I don't look at, I read through once and I keep it for 1 or 2 weeks. I don't go through it again. I don't go through the paper nor the comments because I know I'm very emotional. At that time, you are angry. My paper is the best paper in the world. How can you reject me? How can you reject me? I invested 5 months. You know, I hired 2 people to read and rectify my language. One statistician, I paid 1,000 ringgit to make sure my statistics are right. So a lot of emotions are inside you when you see the rejection. Okay. So what you need to do, read once and keep it. Forget it for about 1 week. If you're still angry, 2 weeks. If you're still angry, 3 weeks. Until you feel, okay, I'm not going to be angry. Then you open your email, read again the comments. I've done it so many times, and then suddenly I realized, yes, okay, this review, okay, I can accept that, I can accept that, I can accept that. There will be 1 or 2 review that you don't accept, and you say, okay, I don't. So now what you have done, you have given yourself time to calm down, look at the comments more objectively and rationally, but not emotionally. I have a colleague who saw rejection, immediately she deleted the email. So I was doing a workshop for my colleagues, this was a long time ago, and I asked, and she said, oh yeah, okay, it was rejected. I said, okay, can you show me the email or, you know, the review? She said, no, I rejected because I was so angry and frustrated. You see or not? So you need to remain calm. Read it once, keep it away. When you are less angry, less emotional, then you are ready to read. That is one way, okay? And also don't lose hope. Like I shared with you, right? Me and my student, we wrote the paper. It was rejected 5 times before it was accepted. So rejection is normal, okay? Rejection is normal. For your information, I received more rejection. I think 70% of rejection rather than acceptance. My paper was only accepted like 30%, but you don't give up. You rectify, you improve, you rectify, you revise, you learn, and then you resubmit. Okay? That's the best I can do, Prof. Sedo.
Thank you so much.
Okay, anything else?
No, we are.
All right, I think that's all from me. I hand over to Prof. Sedo and the organizer.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Kabilan, for wonderful 2-hour session. In fact, more than 2 hours with question and answer session. So we learned so much from your session, starting from I was looking at fundamental concept of basic publishing, Scopus journals. And you also talk about, in the Malaysian context, about the rating and the value of conference paper, chapters, local journal, international journals, the Scopus-indexed, and also SSCI. Something that is, for the first time, I got to learn, how do you calculate the impact factor? Wonderfully explained by you, and it's so easy, I didn't know that. And also looking at the citation index, cite score, actually. He also talked about very useful information about review process, and talking about international journal or Scopus-indexed journal that talks about 2 to 5 reviewers. And then we had a very good question session where you actually talk about how to be accepted in the journal, and the confusion about whether first you write the paper and then look for the journal, and you clearly gave the instruction and gave the hint that it will be better if we select the journal, look at the scope, aims and objective of the journal, and then you shape a paper, then the possibility of rejected will be very less. And we do very good example from teaching and teacher education journal, talking about how you select, how a researcher should select the topic, looking at the scope like teachers' professional development. And one very interesting thing that you said, which I wrote it down, I approach to you approach. Most of the time, researchers should try to see what the journal is looking from us, not rather than what I am looking at it. It's not about what I am going to offer. It is about what they are asking for, the contribution that I'm going to make. And the last part was another interesting part is conclusion. I tend to make my conclusion very short, like many other people. You said the conclusion is the most important part, where you need to really explain entire experience, the data analysis and everything. And then we had a series of question answer, and these are very wonderful, useful. And I would love to conclude with Sabrina Ahmed's final comment, your ex-student talking about, please write a book on sharing your knowledge. That will be so useful for us. I had said this before in IIUM, we need this information worldwide. So with that note, I will conclude this session and looking forward to having more session with you on research and publications, because I understand only 2-hour session is not enough. Even the first international conference where we gave you only 25 minutes, you reminded us it takes a lot of time to understand. And now I can understand even 2 hours is not enough. And I'm sure from our association, TESOL Society of Bangladesh and the Department of English Studies State University, we are gratefully acknowledge your presence today. We understand how busy you are, Professor. And when I was talking to Tawhida, the head of the department, I said, send an email. Professor Kamarul Kabilan is somebody who never refuses any request from a Bangladeshi. So thank you so much to make this wonderful session.